Let's get started!
Clever, comrade. Check this out. A hero standing on the mountain. Go to part 2.
I don't know what's weirder. The fact that someone thought it's a good idea to make a bedtime story about a hero standing on a mountain goat, or the fact that the first one is apparently so good they made a sequel.
I know, right?
So what's the part 2 about?
It's about a hero standing on 2 mountain goats.
I'm gonna start the rant now. Okay, here we go. MHA chapter 387. It's yet another chapter where Sunbird gets yet another f***ing power up, because why the f***ing hell not? Now do take note that this video will not be a full recap. We are just gonna be ranting about things that don't make sense, but mostly just about Sunbird. But before we start, let me say a little something. So about the whole final battle arc up to this point. I couldn't help but notice that these two just keep hogging all the villain screen time. It's like every chapter is just either about one of them. While yes, there are moments where the scenes switch over to other villains, it mostly just stays there for a relatively short while before going back to either one of these two again. It's pretty much only Deadline and Sunbird at this point. And speaking of screen time, another thing I couldn't help but notice is how very little screen time the main protagonist is getting, which is definitely odd because he's the literal main f***ing character. He already spent the first 30% of the final battle just flying around the ocean doing nothing. But now that he's here, he's still pretty much doing very little, screen time wise. Okay, that's enough ranting about screen time. Let's move on to the main rant. So about chapter 387. So it's got 2 distinct parts. The exposition part with Big Freeze and Marble, and the Sunbird part. Of course, let's go start with the exposition part first. So about this part, it's pretty much just exposition about this guy's origin story, as well as some obvious hints about Ice Mom's own origin story as well. As a whole, it's pretty decent and interesting. My only complaint here is that why is this only told now? Why wait until the final battle of the final arc for this? Stuff like this should have been told way earlier, preferably by an actual relevant character with actual screen time. But anyways, mini rant aside, perhaps the best thing about this little scene is Marble. Because it's my boy Marble, it's always nice seeing Marble, because it's the f***ing Marble Man. Anyways, since he's supposed to return and be a part of the final fight, him appearing in this chapter could be a hint that he's about to get busted out of prison anytime now, quite possibly along with this irrelevant femboy. And basing off of the earlier villain rescue attempts with both Big Boy and Grill B, there will probably be once again yet another massive villain army involved. Said villain army will probably then be once again easily wiped out. But hey, at least Marble and Big Freeze will be freed. 10 out of 10 efficiency. Such amazing and non-wasteful resource management for the villains. Okay, so that's very much all I can say about the teeny tiny little exposition part. Now let's move on to the second part. The Sunbird fight. So there's quite the number of randable stuff here. But before I go ranting, I'd like to appreciate the top tier artwork in this battle scene for a bit. Because goddamn, this is some f***ing beautiful sh**. This is pretty much a common case with all of Sunbird's scenes in the finale, since he's pretty much the creator's favorite, and as such his scenes are drawn significantly better than anyone else.
It's beautiful!
Hell, just look at this flaming punch attack here. The framing, the shading, the drawing. Everything is perfect. In fact, you can almost feel the power just by looking at it.
Feel the power of the sun!
It's beautiful!
Meanwhile, the Demon Lord gets an incredibly silly black screen attack. A literal f***ing black screen. Yeah, I know. The Sunbird bias is extremely strong in this one. And speaking of bias, since Sunbird is the creator's favorite after all, naturally in this chapter he gets even more power-ups. Specifically 2 new power-ups. Because apparently the sudden heat bomb ability he got in the previous chapter still isn't f***ing enough. Anyways, the first power-up is Sunbird somehow managing to perfectly copy the flame punch attack. Always remember that Sunbird's out of nowhere technique copying ability requires him to actually see the move first, before he can copy it. So how did he copy this move when he never even saw this before, let alone knew about it? Not only that, The flame punch is not just a crude copy, not even just a decent copy, it's a literal perfect copy of the original, complete with the torn off right arm. Sunbird literally just f***ing managed to perfectly copy a technique he never even f***ing knew about. Zero training required too, because he's the f***ing creator's favorite. So yeah. For short, he just ass pulled something out of another ass pull. Anyways. So the second power up is him suddenly getting ice powers. But compared to the first one, this one has an in-universe explanation. Yeah, it's extremely bullshit and feels more or less like a Deus Ex Machina. But hey, at least it's got an in-universe explanation. So I'll just let it slide. For now. Although I do have a question about the new ice powers. So if Sunbird has ice abilities now, what happens to the heat bomb? Would the ice completely cancel out the heat bomb altogether? Or extend the timer? Or what? Either way, it just seems kinda counterproductive that the creator would give his favorite character a fancy heat bomb ability just a chapter ago. And then follow it up with a possible counter to said heat bomb. But then again, at the end of the day, Sunbird is still the creator's favorite. That means there's an absurdly high chance that the heat bomb will just proceed normally and will be completely unaffected by the new ice powers. And now before we end, I'd like to talk about these panels for a bit. Basing off of the light burns over here, high chance this is going to be Flash. Compensator is probably just hallucinating, that's why he's not seeing things right. Okay, rant over. Overall. Chapter 387. Despite everyone expecting it to be a chapter featuring Mecha Superman facing off against Deadline, 387 is just a Sunbird family drama chapter. No epic showdown of magic versus machine, just Compensator being the best and his son being a f***ing incredibly obnoxious Mary Sue. And about the obnoxious Mary Sue being f***ing obnoxious, it got me thinking. At the level of power-ups, ass pulls, plot armor, baby pictures, and creator favoritism this idiot is clearly getting, I wouldn't be surprised at this point if he makes it out the final battle alive. And about the consequences of his bad actions? Mary Sue's don't face consequences. The final panel of MHA is gonna be this guy happily eating noodles with his family. The end.
Well, clever comrade. What do you think?
Deadline, I don't think this is a bedtime story. It's too action-packed and intense. It even ended with a cliffhanger of a third mountain goat joining the crew. This is not a bedtime story. This is a f***ing masterpiece.
Huh?
But if you really want a good bedtime story, check this out.
What's this?
That's the middle part of MHA Vigilantes. It'll put you to sleep in no time.